Tanzania, the country known to all in the gemstone world as the birthplace of Tanzanite, one of the most scarce and beautiful gemstones on the planet. Tanzania is also home to some of the oldest known civilizations unearthed by archaeologists and boasts one of the largest and most varied wild animal populations in the world. Steve Bennett and I have travelled to Tanzania to take a closer look at how Tanzanite mining has changed over the last few years and to see how the indigenous people live their daily lives. Joanna Waddington from charity Ace Africa was on hand to introduce us to some of the local communities.
We're not far from where Tanzanite is mined. We're just outside of Arusha, and this group of ladies here, there are 9 of them in total, they make flour for the local community. With a little bit of profit they make from the flour, around about £50 a month, they then take that money and support up to 100 orphans in between here and where the Tanzanite mines are located. It's a great worthwhile project. These ladies, it's not about handouts. They never ask for money, they don't want money. What they want is help and advice on how to sustain their community in a better way. And there's a wonderful charity out here called Ace Africa. They're doing a fantastic job at supporting the community, and it's something we're very proud to be associated with.
Although the outlook is positive for some, there are always areas where a little help will go a long way.
I'm in a Maasai hut in Arusha, and they're cooking up dinner on an open flame. And sitting close to this, it's like if you were at home having a barbecue, but you're outside where at least the fumes can disappear, because we've got the thatch roof over the top. I've only been in here about 4 minutes, and I'm struggling to breathe already. And this is what the research that we found with Earthwatch is, that some children at the age of 5 or 6 have the lungs of a 50-year-old smoker, and it's because of this open fire within the mud hut. So the whole idea with the eco stove is that, first of all, it's more efficient. It only uses 40% of the amount of wood, but there are so less fumes for the children to inhale as they're cooking the food. So while I was trying to help out with mining techniques, I've really started to appreciate the difference that the eco stove is going to provide. Literally just half an hour in the hut, and it's made literally of mud and rafters, and this is how most of the Maasai live, both here in Tanzania and also in Samburu in Kenya, also similar with Madagascar. The fumes, you're breathing them in, and it's going to make a huge difference if we can just put an eco stove in every single one of the homes around the areas where we're doing the mining, and with your help it's going to make a massive difference.
The main purpose of our visit was to gain an insight into how Tanzania's crown jewel is mined in the area. The government has divided the Tanzanite mining region into 4 blocks, called A, B, C and D. Blocks A, B and D are divided up between many artisanal and small mining companies, whereas Block C in its entirety is run by the world's largest exporter of Tanzanite, simply called Tanzanite 1.
So after a good trek on a very bumpy, dusty road, with a bit of Mount Kilimanjaro in that direction, Steve's about an hour in that direction, building some more relationships. So I've come to Tanzanite 1 after about 5 different security checks to get through, and I'm overlooking now from a tower D block, A, B, C and D block. When they were divided by the government, Tanzanite 1 owned C block, but we get most of ours from the small artisanal miners that we're overlooking right now. So whatever colour you've got, grade AA, triple or the quad, it's come out the ground around about 700 metres down. Great view, great gemstones.
Tanzanite 1 is a very professionally run organisation, and I felt extremely privileged to be allowed access to their incredible operation.
So we're going down to the block now. We're going to go about 700 metres down, and the driver's lived in Tanzania all his life and never been down Tanzanite 1. And never had the brakes tested either, by the sound of it. Excited?
Yep, yes. Very much excited.
Excited?
Yes,
Good.
very much excited.
Okay, putting up now. This is C Block, owned by Tanzanite 1. So let's go and see. Let's go and see what happens. So when we go down, all right, if we go nice and slowly? Can we go slow?
You can go slow.
Slowly?
Yeah.
You're not going to go fast?
You could go fast or slow.
Well, let's go slow. We don't need to go fast.
Okay.
We don't need to go fast. This is Anton, who's going to be one of the guides today, taking us down. We've already heard a little bit about how far down, etc. Can you explain a little bit about regarding the different shafts and the sort of heights or depths we're going to?
Okay. As you can see, this is just, we are at main shaft. This is not JW shaft, but this is only a little bit of history that we have put on the board here. Now, basically, if you're going to come this way,
Yep.
this is where you were at the container where you had some coffee and stuff. It's
Yes.
up there. This was shaft number one. This is where we started off in the beginning of the time. This is where we are going now. This is main shaft. We are going underground to this, basically to this place here.
Right.
Okay. So
And how far down is this again?
this is about 770 meters down, about 350 vertical underground.
Right. Okay.
Basically, this is the deepest that we have gone. This is about 700 meters vertical here.
And the ones you say you don't use anymore, is that because it's now depleted from those areas? There's nothing else coming out of that?
No, what we are doing actually is we're actually just concentrating on these 3 shafts for the moment.
Okay.
And that is basically why we got all our manpower in here.
Right. This original shaft, when it was put in, how long did that take to actually sort of drill down and to get the shaft in place?
Main shaft about from 2004, I think, 2004, 2005.
Okay, so
Yeah.
a good year of drilling down and...
Yeah, well, up to now we still continue. We only stopped here, but we have mined this basically on a stop-start basis. So we
Okay.
haven't mined this continuously every year.
Right.
Because as soon as we do heat production or something like that, everything goes on halt, and then we go. We put in some crosscuts, and then we explore what we have there, and then we continue with the shaft sinking again. So.
I see. Great. Do you think it will continue much further down?
Yeah, we have to go down for up to about 1,000 meters.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
you've got about another 300 metres still to get down?
Yeah.
I'll come back when you've done that.
The moment had finally arrived. I was about to descend 700 metres underground to see the source of this magnificent gemstone.
I need to have a little chat with Steve about this because I'm not quite sure where in my contract it said getting a metal coffin, go down 700 metres at 25 miles an hour. I'm actually missing the studio right now. I'm even missing Lynn Jinks a little bit. No, not that much. You can feel the temperature change and the speed as well. It's getting warmer as we get lower, but I'm not sure if that's just me and the adrenaline at the moment. Okay, so that was a great journey down. We're about 700 metres below now, and we're going to get a nice little section to see where they're actually mining the Tanzanite that's going to be set in your ring. I'm right down the bottom at the moment, and each one of these bags that are coming up with a rough in it, each bag's around about 2 shovel worths of rough. It's about 15 kilograms in each. Probably in about every 30 bags or so that are going past. Hopefully in one of them there's some Tanzanite for you. I can tell you, it is boiling down here, boiling. Okay, so I've just, you can see, it's dirty work, but just come up from 700 meters down and seen these 15k kilograms bags with all the rough in there. Hopefully there's some Tanzanite in some, about 1 in 30 or so. And seeing it, I have to say, you get a real understanding about the rarity of this and just the work that goes into it. And also the work's got to carry on now with the cutting and the polishing and before it's set into your jewellery. But as an experience, I have to say, Tanzanite mine in Tanzania, I'm looking at Mount Kilimanjaro, doesn't really get much better than that. Fantastic.
While I was taking a look at large-scale mining in Tanzanite 1, Steve was experiencing the opposite, taking in the small artisanal plots in B block.
This is the start of a brand new shaft here in Muralani, looking of course for Tanzanite. This is about a metre wide, about 1.5 metres deep, and it takes about 4 or 5 hours to get this far down with a shovel. Exhausting work, and I'll be quite honest, I haven't dug this one. But again, there's very little Tanzanite today towards the surface. Pretty much this whole area, A block, B block, C block and D block, everything near the surface pretty much is gone now, and therefore all of the stones that we're getting for Tanzanite is coming from deeper and deeper down in the earth, and of course that means more cost. More cost means that prices are probably only going to go one way. One of the problems with Tanzanite mining is that the host rock itself is quite hard, and even though we're quite near the surface here, it quickly goes from the soft soil into the hard rock very, very quickly, and today pretty much the whole area has been exhausted near the surface. We've been in here for best part of a couple of days, and we haven't found a single piece yet. Well, Scott's over at Tanzanite 1. I've been in B block. This is where a lot of the artisanal miners are mining. They've all got official licenses. They're all doing an absolutely fantastic job to find you that gorgeous Tanzanite. But unfortunately today, they're finding less and less. They haven't got the technology that some of the larger miners have got, and therefore they really are struggling to find any decent quantity. The quality is beautiful for sure, but the quantity is definitely diminishing. So I'm going to go over now and see how Scott's getting on at Tanzanite 1.
Although it's just a short distance away, it's amazing how different the mining is from that at B block to the grand scale operation in C block.
So how's Tanzanite 1?
Tanzanite 1 was dirty. Very dirty.
You have a good time?
I've been down about 700 metres.
Yeah.
Anton, a fantastic guy, great guide. Saw the rough coming up through there,
Brilliant.
going down in this coffin, but I need to chat to you about health and safety basically with regard to my contract. That was on the studio condition. Anyway, you went down to B block, were you down there? How was that?
Very interesting. They're not pulling much out of the ground in B block at the moment. All the activity seems to be C and D block. But I hear you've managed to get us in behind the scenes and now look at the sorting plant.
I've had a chat with somebody. We've got to get past, don't touch the fence by the way.
Really? Why is that?
About 2,000 volts and a little tickle. So we're going to go through there and we're going to go and follow the guy we got. He's going to take us through to go see the sorting.
Brilliant.
Fancy it?
Let's do it. Let's go. So here they're using gravity to determine which pieces of the rough rock have actually got the Tanzanite in. Because Tanzanite is more dense than the graphite, it's heavier, it falls to the bottom of the solution. The solution here is a silica type solution, and that measures the density. Like I say, the heavier pieces then go through to the sorting room. This is the final sorting process here at Tanzanite 1. You've seen all the heavy machinery outside. They've got the electronic way of measuring. They've got the old coffee bean technology. They've got the sorting by density. But you still have to go through the last stage and sort out the gemstones from the rough. From here, we then come over to this side of the room, and here's what they call cobbing. This is it's not gemstone cutting, it's not fasting, but the actual cobbing of the gemstone. They're taking off the last little bits of graphite and hammering away, chiseling away, if you like, just so that the only bit that is left at the end is the very valuable tanzanite. And what's really impressive about today's find is that a lot more blues coming out, a lot more natural blue. And what you tend to find is as we go deeper and deeper into the earth, because there was more temperature further down, more temperature of course means that the colours are already there, more vanadium as well. So very, very interesting that if you were here 4 or 5 years ago, you'd have seen less blue pieces, more of the brown, and therefore a lot more heating process. But a lot of the pieces now that are coming from deeper under the earth are already naturally blue. You may notice while they're doing the cobbing, you'll notice that they're putting their hands into this machine and actually wearing the gloves. And the reason for that is just to stop the people that are working here from stealing the gemstones. Remember, globally, whenever you're mining gemstones, theft is one of the biggest problems. But it's a much more friendly way than back in the 1920s. I've got a great photograph of in Burma where the sorting table, they had this massive like wooden box that they had to wear on the head. It was literally like 2 foot wide, 2 foot high with a mesh on the front. And in the 1920s, it would stop them from swallowing the gemstones. Because back in Burma, the way they used to steal the gemstones was to swallow it. And I'll leave the rest to your imagination.
I'm here at a lapidary in Tanzania. I'm watching these brilliant people that are all doing some great work with the rough gemstones. And the reason why they're doing so much work on it is because in 2009 the Tanzanian law changed regarding the export of rough tanzanite over a gram. So any tanzanite that was to go out the country, make sure over a gram, had to be faceted. So that means a lot more work for the people of Tanzania, of course, that are now doing the work that you can see taking place in the room. It's brilliant.
After the lapidary visit, the Tanzanite One management wanted to show us some of the charity projects they were involved in. The first place we visited was this local school.
At one of the schools here in Tanzania, and it is amazing to sort of witness the good that can come out of gemstone mining, genuine gemstones, not created or synthetics, but miners that depend upon money to come through from their mining, and projects like this that have been funded from Tanzanite sales. It is an amazing experience, and these are amazing children. What a difference is made. Thank you very much for your singing, you're amazing. Thank you. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
However, the children aren't always as fortunate as the ones at the school. The next place we visited was a local orphanage, and it was incredibly moving to see such happy, smiling children in such a desperate situation.
Just like in Arusha, here in Merelani, there's a lot of orphans, unfortunately, because of the prevalence of AIDS and how widespread it is here in Africa. There are many orphans. And this orphanage is sponsored by Tanzanite One, so when you buy Tanzanite, there's a very good chance that in some small way you're helping out with this community. Let me introduce you to Rachel. Rachel was abandoned at the gates of the orphanage about 2 weeks ago. She's just abandoned, just left there. They woke up in the morning and she was sitting there on the doorstep. Here you go, Rachel. There you go. Big one for you. Big smile. There's only over 90 children here at the orphanage, and they sleep in the rooms all around the outside and the tent here. But they haven't raised enough funds to pay for the rent over the last couple of years, so they're building some new premises around the corner, and they're hoping they'll eventually to house up to 300 people.
Yeah,
it's quite incredible.
Yeah, if it gets finished.
If it gets finished.
Yeah.
This is one of the orphanages that Tanzanite One support. Over 90 children in there. Still needs a lot more work, a lot more help, but with your continued support, keep buying those Tanzanites, and let's hope that one day the accommodation will improve, and that you'll be playing a part of transforming some of these young children's lives.
On the journey back from the orphanage, Steve and I discussed how different the children's lives were in Tanzania to the modern West. However, what you can't imagine is how much worse it would be if the community didn't have the income from the prosperous Tanzanite mines. The next day for us was a very early start, as we were going to climb partway up the magnificent Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest freestanding mountain in the world.
So it's incredible, isn't it? You've got Kilimanjaro in the background,
Yeah.
and then down into the valley, into Arusha and Merilani, where the actual Tanzanite's all formed.
Yeah.
And as they were explaining to us yesterday at the mine, it was this 100 million years ago, all this folding and folding and folding, and then you get that like ripple effect like the sea,
Yeah.
and it erodes. But underneath there, in that nice, calm, tranquil bit, all that lovely Tanzanite forming,
All the magic happens.
all the magic.
Speaking of magic, this is great, isn't it? There's
I tell you, it is probably the nicest mining location I think I've ever seen in the world for any gemstone.
and the smell, it's really fresh. It's got pine, there's a eucalyptus as well, because the forestry they've come through as well, which is government owned as well, so the people living off the land, literally. It's been just a trip here so far has been amazing. So looking forward to getting a bit higher up there.
Let's go.
Okay.
We're at an elevation about 3,500 metres now, just over a third of the way up Kilimanjaro. We've gone past where they normally call Day Camp 1. And behind me, it's a beautiful view. The clouds have just cleared enough, so we can see in the distance Arusha's just over to the right here, and Merilani, where the actual Tanzanite is discovered, just a little bit more to the left. And for me, it's just absolutely fantastic, because we love our gemstones and we love the beauty of the gemstones, but here we've seen the beauty of the surroundings from where it comes.
I'm around about 3,600 metres up Mount Kilimanjaro, and most of the terrain that we've been travelling over to get to here so far is of course made up of igneous rock. So when Mount Kilimanjaro exploded with the lava, a lot of it was flowing down the side of the surface, and as it cooled down became igneous rock. Every now and again though, there was these huge explosions that would take place that would come out of the main crater. And sometimes you get what this is, which is a pyroclastic bomb. And these were huge amounts of magma and lava that was jettisoned into the air and landing almost 20 miles away from where the main crater is of Mount Kilimanjaro. And I can tell you, I wouldn't have liked to have been here when this one landed. Impressive.
As we ascended, Steve and I noticed a distinct difference in the terrain. In fact, those who climb to the top of Kilimanjaro will actually experience 5 different ecosystems: rainforest, heath, moorland, alpine desert and glacier.
A couple of mountains here, we've got Mount Meru and of course the very impressive Kilimanjaro, which we're still trying to climb up. And when you think about this, it's very different to all the mountain ranges in the world, where you think about the Alps, think about the Andes, you think about Everest. All these are mountain ranges where the tectonic plates have come together and pushed up to form those ranges. Kilimanjaro is 100% the opposite. Here the tectonic plates have been pulling apart, and as they pull apart, you think about all the magma in the mantle is now coming up through the crust and forming a massive volcano. This was 750,000 years ago when it really erupted, but it's still bubbling and smouldering along quite nicely today, and who knows, sometime in the next 10,000 years, 100,000 years, it might be active one more time. And it has a big influence on the gemstones around here. Because it's pulling apart, we're seeing a lot of different types of gemstones appearing in this region than you'll find in those mountainous regions, as I say, where the plates are coming together.
As we reached Day Camp 2, as inappropriately dressed as we were for a mountain climb, we decided it would be best if our journey ended here.
How'd you enjoy that?
Enjoyment, I don't know, is that a word at the moment?
You can use enjoyment.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It's harder than running a marathon, but
I've got a real appreciation for the people that managed to get to the very top.
yeah.
Because at altitude already, it's sort of 3,000 600 feet or metres, you already feel the air thinning out, can't you?
Oh yeah, I mean altitude-wise, you're already over halfway.
Yeah.
This is day camp 2. This is where they tend to stop.
That's an achievement as well.
Yeah.
That's a massive thing.
We'll stop here.
Yep.
Because I want to get back down, get some more gemstone buying going.
Okay.
But we'll have a little look round first, have a bit of lunch.
Yeah.
Feel like Scott of the Antarctic.
The breeze is coming down. We actually want to get out this morning to see the peak.
So you don't mind getting up at 5 o'clock now?
Don't mind getting up at 5 o'clock. Not every day though. But every day you get to walk up Mount Kilimanjaro either, isn't it?
True.
As I mentioned earlier, most of the Tanzanite that the Genuine Gemstone Company purchased comes from D Block. So Steve thought it would be a great idea for us to take a look at how the majority of our Tanzanite is sourced. Interestingly, D Block is believed to be the area in which Manuel de Souza first discovered Tanzanite back in 1967.
If you're a collector of Tanzanite already, or thinking about collecting this gemstone, just think about this, how close you could have been to not owning it. Back in 1967, Manuel de Souza originally wanted to go over the hillside over there. That's where his planned destination was, to go looking, prospecting for more different gemstones. As it happens, the van driver that he actually hired decided he wasn't going to go any further. The roads were just too unbearable. He just couldn't get the truck down there. So he dropped him off here, nowhere near where he wanted to be. And to think, if that had happened, if it hadn't dropped him off here, right in the foothills of Merelani area, you may never have got your Tanzanite, and we'd never have known about this beautiful gemstone that everybody wants to collect. Amazing. Yesterday I was at Tanzanite 1. I went down 700 metres in the tin coffin, as they talk it, and seeing the 15-kilogram bags of rough being brought to the surface, and hopefully one in every 30 bags or so hopefully contains some Tanzanite. Today, here in Merelani, I'm actually in D Block, a completely different experience to how Tanzanite is brought to the ground. In contrast, only about 30 metres deep are the shafts that they're travelling down here to bring out these gemstones in their rough source, and it is a much more hands-on experience, great skilled staff again bringing this brilliant gemstones to the surface. Beyond where I am in D Block is C Block, and then of course you're also looking at A's and B Block, which are much further into the hills as they're set. As they're trying to go down as deep as they can, obviously not as deep as 700 metres, the rough they're bringing is getting less and less and less. But when they do get down there, they are finding more and more colour, depending on how deep they can actually get their shafts down into the ground. To say as an experience though, they're all mining for one very rare gemstone. They do a lot of work to bring the gemstone to you, and to see that firsthand, you really get an idea of just how precious each gemstone that you have in your jewellery is definitely worth. Great experience, great place.
Whilst in D Block, we visited two very different but productive mines, the first of which left Steve dangling down a 30-metre vertical shaft.
I'm here in D Block. It's actually owned by a guy called Money. His real name is Money, and he's got the licence to this area in D Block. His shaft here is some 30 metres deep, and it's a bit like Indiana Jones when you come down here. The ladder is absolutely vertical, and whilst 30 metres going up the side of your building at home to clean your windows might not sound a lot, when you're looking deep dark into a shaft and it is just pure black, it's quite a frightening sight. One of the great things about this shaft is the supply of oxygen is really good. Many places around the world, especially in Madagascar, what they actually do is fill dustbin liners, black dustbin liners full of oxygen, drop them down to the bottom of the pit, and the miners actually breathe in the oxygen from the black bin liners. But here in D Block, a lot of people think D Block is very unsophisticated, but this one in particular is very sophisticated. It's got proper air supply. That's difficult, and you do that every day?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Every day.
Once, twice a day, 3 times a day?
One and one go up.
So you stay down the whole day?
Yeah.
You mine?
Yeah.
And then you come up in the evenings?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done to you. Well done.
Monday to Friday.
Monday to Friday?
Saturday and Sunday we stay over.
Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah.
A few beers?
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
In the past, Money's mine has provided us with many premium-grade tanzanites. However, one of the main problems faced by miners today is the rising costs of everything from the extraction itself to the dynamite.
When Tanzanite was first discovered, obviously there was only going down several feet into the ground to extract the blue ziacite from the surface. But of course, as years have gone on, they have to go further and further down to take out all of the Tanzanite. This, of course, needs explosions. Explosions needs dynamite, and the dynamite that's in here is now working about $140 to $150 rather than back a few years ago to 50 or 60. All of this, of course, is putting the pricing up to extract the gemstones from what's down below. Keep that bolt on that door.
The next mine we visited was owned by a man called Rahim, who runs a medium-sized operation but has actually gone even deeper than Tanzanite 1. Whilst we were there, we bumped into one of the world's most respected mineral collectors and gem hunters, Bill Larson.
Bill, when we started selling Tanzanite in 2004, we were just telling my customers what everybody in the trade had told us, that Tanzanite's going to run out in one generation.
Absolutely.
But that was because they were mining close to the surface and they took all the easy pickings, and then it went quite barren for a while. Right. But now in D-Block, I mean, even the smaller family-run businesses, the artisans, even these guys are going really deep now.
120 feet, and then 120 feet, and 100 meters. So you're down 1,000 feet. You know, pretty impressive, and only those 3 bands produce. So it's a lot of dry ground in between.
So you hit one seam, you get the Tanzanite, then you have a barren period while you're digging deeper.
Another 120 meters, and then another 120 meters. Wow. And that's what I think they're all on now, on the 3rd band.
Should we go and have a look?
Let's go look.
Let's do it.
Hey.
So we've come down a short way, Bill. What's this interjection here?
We're at 50 meters, according to the gentleman here, Moni. And this is the first reef. You see up here the white dolomite and the graphite schist. And you come right over here, and there is Tanzanite going to be in here. But he said when you see these small little calcite veins, there's one here, the pockets aren't large enough.
Right.
So the Tanzanite's very small, commercial size. What size would we get here of Tanzanite?
Hardly up to 2-3 grams more than that.
That's so very small compared to. That's why they're down 800 meters here.
Yeah.
That's in the 3rd reef where they get the large pockets.
Right.
So it's an enormous expenditure of time, energy, and money.
Yeah.
And you can feel the heat here already.
Yeah.
Think about down there, 800 meters.
Yeah.
We're at 50 meters. And we're both sweating.
Yeah.
So this is a major undertaking. But they can come back here in the future, and they know right here they'll get Tanzanite, depending on the value. There's always more in every mine.
Yeah.
It's just, is it profitable?
Yeah. Can you get it out
at a cost effectiveness? And this is not at the moment.
Yeah. So if the price does go up, then they can come back and mine here. But
they know this is for the future.
For the future.
This is pretty amazing. It's very sophisticated. I mean, they've got they bring up the gangue minerals right here, and of course, once in a while, high grade. And that's a long way. It's 2,500 over feet. That run.
It's incredible. And it's nice that the guys, in D-Block are even below Tanzanite 1 at the moment.
That is correct. A little bit. Not
a little
much,
bit,
but they are. And are you headed for the 4th reef, or are you still in the 3rd reef?
He's heading for the 3rd reef right now.
It's heading for the 3rd reef.
It's heading for the 3rd
Okay,
reef.
so it's even deeper than 2,500 feet.
Yeah, it's deeper
800
than that.
meters. Wow.
And that's due, here in Karen Block D, it's more deeper.
Because the
down in Tanzania.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah.
It did the dip increases. You can see it.
Of course, because it starts.
Look, Stephen. You can see the dip increase. Look. If you look in here, the ladder, and all of a sudden it falls off. It's going above 45 degrees now.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Because it's following that seam. In A block, it comes down, doesn't it? B block, C block, D block. So you have got to go deeper.
Deeper and deeper.
Understood.
You've got it.
Thank you very much. Well, let's carry on with the journey.
Right on.
This shaft is actually deeper than Tanzanite 1. It's in D block. It's owned by Rahim, and he says I'm one of the first Mzungus to actually be allowed to go down and see it. My gosh, it's pretty impressive. But you want to go down 800 meters and climb a step at 45 degrees. It's absolutely baking hot. And I tell you what, just recently I ran the marathon, and this is so much tougher. If you bought Tanzanite back in 2004, some of it wasn't that difficult to get out the ground, we'll be quite honest. They were quite close to the surface of the earth. But every time you invest in a beautiful Tanzanite today, the odds are it's come a lot deeper from the Earth's surface, a lot deeper. That makes it more expensive to get out, for sure, but it does mean that as we get deeper, there was more heat from Mother Nature, and therefore the colours are sometimes completely natural. More expensive, certainly rarer, and we just hope that on this new level that they've just got down to 800 metres, that we carry on finding Tanzanite. And like we keep saying, back in 2004, we did say it was a one-generation gemstone. And that was based on all of the geological and gemological resources that we had available at that time. Today, my belief, there's probably 2 or 3 more generations, but watch what's going to happen to the price as the costs keep escalating. Thank you. Couldn't ask for anybody better at a mining operation to be with than Bill Larson. Bill's been all around the world. He's had his own mining businesses. You mine your own tourmaline in the States. And you had a venture here in Tanzania. So
I've enjoyed everything. I'm with the mine owner. Yes. And we're talking about the simple things like this cable that breaks at least once a year, where it's unusable. It breaks all the time. We have to fix it. This cable costs $5,000. That's an annual expense. You can do that by the month. Wow, yeah. Almost $400 a month.
Yeah.
Just for a cable.
Yeah.
Cable is nothing compared to the petrol to run it, or this truck, or the tires for the truck, which wear out rather rapidly. You can't imagine what it costs to run a mine.
Yeah.
What do you think you run per month costs here? Do you know?
Per month, I use almost 15,000 USD.
15,000 to probably 20,000 every month, because he's forgetting things like the cable that's only once a year.
Yeah. What I love about this situation is you've got Tanzanite 1 next door, big corporation, and for 8 years I've been saying you have to support right from the one-man artisanal band through to the medium-sized miners, through to the big corporations. And I'd put you slap in that middle band that you're not small and artisanal, but you're not big corporate. And this is fantastic to see that you have gone deeper than even Tanzanite 1. For me, that's fantastic.
Think about where he's at. The burn rate of money at Tanzanite 1, they said, was $1 million a month.
Yeah.
He's doing a deeper project, $20,000 a month.
It's incredible.
Extraordinary efficiency and dedication to hard work. You see it. You were throwing these bags a few minutes ago. Those are 45 to 50 pounds each.
Yeah.
And, you know, dozens and dozens of them.
Yeah.
It's an amazing operation.
Incredible.
Well organized.
Well done indeed.
Of course, Steve, he couldn't resist doing a bit of gem buying for himself. So he set up shop to take a look at what the local artisanal miners had to offer.
All the guys from D Block, this is what they've mined the last couple of days, they're bringing in. Last couple of days, as you can see, very little Tanzanite, but they've been finding a lot of nice pyrite now, so we're working on a few deals.
The next part of our trip was a visit to a Spinel mine in Mahenge. For this, we had to take a small plane for approximately 300 miles to Ifakara before finishing the journey by road. Poor weather conditions meant the pilot was apprehensive about taking off, and we almost had to abandon our plans. Fortunately, the weather report forecast clear skies where we were headed, so we hopped on board.
More of the bad weather seems to be coming from the east, so I think we'll actually be going away from the bad weather, so it should be okay. Darren's nodding, so that's good news.
As we had such a small plane, the pilot set our altitude below the clouds for better visibility. This in turn revealed some of the most beautiful scenery I have ever witnessed. The landing itself was very nerve-wracking, as we were landing on what could be considered to look like a countryside footpath.
Yes, we just looked like we've used for a few years, so Darren circled around a few times, and now we're going to have an attempt to land. That was surely very, very exciting. We just landed on a grass strip. Darren, the pilot, was absolutely fantastic. This hasn't been landed on for probably, I don't know, 3-4 years. And he circled around 3 or 4 times. The look on his face was quite frightening. Anyway, he was fantastic. And as it came down, it was great because the blades on the prop were making the grass fire off in every direction. So the adventure continues. Let's go and find some gemstones.
Waiting for us at the airstrip was a 4x4, which we had to use to cross the river before the rest of our journey.
This is the Kilimanjaro River. This separates Mahenge pretty much from civilization. And the local witch doctors banned many people from actually leaving Mahenge, so a lot of them have never seen further than this river.
So far, this trip to get to the Mahenge mine is we flew out from Kilimanjaro to Dar es Salaam. Dar es Salaam, we then went to Ifakara, which is on a light aircraft. From a light aircraft trip, we got into the Jeep. The Jeep then has taken us on a ferry. The ferry has then taken us so far, about a 2 hour or so, very dusty, dirty, muddy track. And we're not even at the mine yet, but if you just look around already, the scenery is absolutely breathtaking.
The mine is owned by Mark Saul, whose father John was the first geologist in Merelani after the discovery of Tanzanite. Mark's plot is at the top of a beautiful valley, where he operates both host rock and alluvial mining deposits.
What's going on here then?
This is what they call the water cannon, and we loosen up on the soil because the soil is very sticky. So we loosen it up. Then once it's loosened, it becomes like a soup or porridge. We take it to the tumbler down there.
Right.
It separates the different sizes, big sizes from the small sizes. And from there it goes down to the washing plant down there, known as a jig.
Okay.
And the jig is like a gravity separator. It collects all the heaviest stones.
Right.
So when we're done at the end of the day, we can go and look through the jig, see if we can find any stones.
So you don't know what you've got at the end until the end of the day when you've actually washed it all off, and then you can see the rough from there.
And this is soil from a new area, which we've never tried before, so could be nothing, could be a good surprise, you never know.
We turn up on the right day then? Yeah?
The day of surprises.
Well, Scott is learning about alluvial plant washing down there with Mark. Nick's kindly, I think kindly is the word, invite me to the very top to see where the Spinel starts. A shaft they started mining 10 years ago. They had some good finds then. It's been pretty barren for the last couple of years. But we're getting just to the top now, and it's like running a marathon. A bit dirtier though. Almost at the top. I'm worn out, but the miners do this on a regular basis, daily basis. They come and work all day, trying to find the beautiful spinels, and it's quite exhausting work. But again, I keep saying it's worth it, because it is, without doubt, one of the most beautiful gemstones on the planet. So we're at the very top now, Nick.
Yes, we are.
And I guess this is where it all sort of starts from,
This is where all the old deposits were, and most likely the alluvial that they're getting down there came from up here.
And about 10 years, you say, it was first discovered up here?
They started mining here 10 years ago, but the Spinel deposits are much older.
Sure. Now, somebody once said to me that right up here, you can also get clinohumite. I've never heard of it from here.
They go side by side. Clinohumite and Spinel go side by side in the same vein. When you find clinohumite, you'll find Spinel. When you find Spinel, you find
Interesting. A dealer once said to me, "Oh, it's the same mine." I said, "No, it can't be.
It is.
It is. Oh, fantastic." And have you pulled many pieces of clinohumite out, or just mainly Spinel?
More Spinel than clinohumite.
Yeah, both beautiful stones.
Both beautiful stones.
Both rare. And now I really appreciate how much work goes to getting them out of the ground.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Absolutely stunning. Well done, guys. Thank you. Not only is Spinel one of the rarest gemstones on the planet, and one of the most beautiful, it's also one of the most incredibly difficult gemstones to find, incredibly difficult to mine and extract from the host rock. Marble's not the easiest of rocks to break up, and the guys up here today, because the compressor has broke, are smashing their way through, all by hand and chisel. Hard work. And they've asked me if I want to have a go, and the answer is, as always, I'm going to give it a go. Let the experts in. I bet he does it in one swing. Oh. Straight away. The original Spinel deposit was some 150 feet down here that they blasted, like I say, around 10 years ago. And the last 10 foot is where they found the Spinel. They ran out, they couldn't find any more, and it got harder and harder to find because here the rock's a lot denser. So now the idea is to take this another 30 to 40 metres down to find the same vein. Again, there's no guarantee that they're going to find Spinel. It is just such a difficult gemstone to find, but it is one that without doubt at the moment people are valuing similar quite often to diamonds. I mean, it's just the most beautiful gemstone. What Nick explained to me is that the day after it rains, a lot of the mud gets washed away. But some of the smaller stones, and certainly spinels, can often suspend on little towers of mud and protrude from the ground. And the miners, the first thing in the morning after the rain, come up, and before they even start mining, they start looking at all these little spots where all the stones are raised up to see if they can find any spinel. The easier pickings.
Steve travelled back down the hillside just in time to see what gems would be uncovered from the last few days of mining.
This is 4 days of mining. We found quite a lot of pink spinel, but most of it's cloudy, so wouldn't even make it into a gems of distinction necklace. One or two pieces that would do, but not even enough to make one necklace, not even one. And that's quite disappointing because the whole team here, 20, 30 guys, worked for 4 days of mining, and we've only got one little section to go, and not a clean piece yet. So Nick, the last one piece that you might be able to cut and facet, I think if you come in here, might get maybe a 1 or 2 carat piece out of this.
That's true.
That sort of makes it worthwhile.
It does. Well, we kind of hope to get better than this, well, obviously, but it does make it worthwhile, yes.
It's a sort of good indication that there may be more gems that we just haven't found yet.
That's true.
That's what keeps the hope going, isn't it?
That's right.
That's the difference, the hope. So that's today's production.
Yes, that's I would say about 600-700 grams, which is the end product of 30 tons of soil which were washed. We just put it on the tray. So the big piece blocking the rest. This is from about 30 tons of soil that we washed, and we got a few fairly decent pieces.
A couple of those are gem quality.
Yes, yeah. So it's not a bad day, but in our business all you need is one great piece and it pays for everything for the next 6 months.
Because there's those spinels that when you hit those big ones, they can be several thousand per piece.
There was one piece which was produced about 5 years ago, which nobody knows the real and official figures, but I estimate it was sold for more than $30 million, one stone.
One stone?
One big stone, yeah.
30 million?
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking for.
That's what we're looking for too.
You're looking for it.
Come on, Nick, get back out there.
Before we left Mahenge, Joanna from Ace Africa took us to see several local communities facing similar problems to those in Arusha. Joanna introduced us to half a dozen families in their tiny homes, and we immediately came across the same issues that could easily be resolved with an eco-stove. This prompted Steve to come to an agreement with Joanna that we would work with Ace Africa to ensure the eco-stove project was rolled out across both the Arusha and Mahenge areas.
So we had the joy of coming down in a plane, but you drove all the way down, Joe?
Yeah, we drove. It took about 2 days to get here, 7 hours. And you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Because that's true.
Because it's true. And it's exciting to be here because it's a new area. It's very different from the area where we work in Arusha.
Yeah. Similar problems?
Similar problems. There's very high HIV. The issue of food is very different. There's good rainfall here, the soil is good, so food is not a massive problem. However, issues around child rights, access to education, the community don't seem to value education, so a lot of children are out of school, early marriage, and we've done very basic research, and it seems that the needs is, because the areas are very, very remote from the district hospital, there are no health centres that are local to the villages. People walk and often carried, if they're sick, they're carried on stretchers for 2 hours, made of wood and blankets, and there also is no care for the people who are sick in their homes. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. I think the stigma around HIV is very, very high.
Yeah.
And the issues are the same, but they're different.
And the buildings are different. From the mud huts up in Arusha, here in Mahenge it's more brick built. But I guess the cooking issue, when we're talking back to the eco stoves, still similar problems?
Yeah, similar problems. They're still using the 3-stone Gicos, which will give off the same amount of mud, fumes and smoke. And so I think there's still quite a lot of work we can do there on those rocket stoves.
Our time in Tanzania had now come to an end. We now had a greater understanding of how Tanzanite and Spinel are both mined in the region, as well as being able to initiate the first of many community projects. I, for one, will never forget my time in Tanzania. How many people not only get to visit the country where our beautiful gemstones are from, but have a chance to see and experience the actual mining life itself.